Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Harris Bard from Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London. And in today's video, highlights from South America, Asia, North America, Australia, and Africa. Let's get into it. So first things first, we are Pond Life Aquatics and we do things slightly differently here. We do everything continent by continent just so it helps everyone understand where their fish are from in the wild. And occasionally we have schools in and it helps us to educate them on where different species are, on what their different biomes are like. But without further ado, let's get into our first highlight. Now for our only highlight in South America, on the left-hand side when you first walk into our fish room, we have one for L-cat lovers this week, and that is the L201 Inspector Snowball Pleco. Now, Snowball Inspector Plecos are an absolutely stunning L-cat species originating in Venezuela in the Orinoco River. Now, these are one of your truly large Pleco species. They do need a significant amount of space. They need at least 200 liters plus to keep them. And they are one of those species that you can actually quite readily breed in captivity. These guys are 45 pounds a piece and they are absolutely beautiful. Something really interesting about L201 inspectors is that they're not actually an algae eater like a lot of your typical Pleco species. They are a carnivorous Pleco and require you to have very specific feeding for that. When you are feeding them, think about supplementing them with lots of things like bloodworm, a good carnivore pellet, something that is going to make sure they are getting enough food. Alternatively, if you are keeping them in a community tank, which is absolutely viable, you can very readily keep them with any of your regular community feeding regime. So they'll happily take flake, pellet, anything that's got a good amount of protein in, they will happily hoover up. So as such, I probably wouldn't count a inspector as a algae eater or a cleanup crew. I would definitely have it as more of a food cleanup crew where they are going to go around and they'll help back up some of those overfeeds that you're going to get occasionally in a community style tank. Now, since I'm highlighting a larger fish species, I would be remiss to point out that we've got this absolutely stunning Aquael Ultrascape 90, which is a 243 litre rimless aquascaping aquarium, which is absolutely beautiful. This tank that we have in, the only reason I'm highlighting it, I usually wouldn't for one-off sells, is because this is such a insane deal. I wish I had the space to take this home. £799 off the top of my head, and it comes with a cabinet, hardscape, everything. The only things that you will need to get with it is a filtration system and a decent light. But if you were going to be setting up a Venezuelan biotope to keep things like Inspector Plecos, then this tank would be absolutely ideal. I'd think about having a very moderate, decent flow going through it. Think about having lots of hardier plants that are going to tolerate that flow. Things like Vallisneria, Anubias, Java fern, some larger Amazon swords. And you're just going to be able to create this absolutely beautiful open top rimless tank that something like an Inspector L-cat is just going to absolutely adore. It's also going to work really well for a community tank setup. Thinking about keeping a Plec like this, being able to visualize the kind of size tank that you're going to need to keep them effectively is really useful. Something interesting about Inspector Plecos, the reason why they are called inspectors is because they are supposedly a bit more active than your average L-cat Pleco. Personally, I found that trying to get footage of this little guy, of course he's out and about now that I'm filming this part of the video, was really difficult. They do love hiding in caves, particularly males when they are in breeding mode will typically hide out in the cave and take care of the eggs. But these are absolutely stunning L-cats. They're definitely one for collectors, people who are looking to breed an L-cat. I think these guys are absolutely gorgeous, and they don't have that insane price tag that some other species like your Queen Arabesque or zebras have, while still offering that really striking look to them. Now moving down into Asia, but actually highlighting a North American species, I wanted to touch on these rainbow shiners because they have just really colored up and are looking absolutely stunning. Now, talking about another species that needs a larger space to absolutely thrive. Although online I've seen some people say that you can keep rainbow shiners in like a 70 litre plus. Personally, I would be looking at something like an 150 to 200 litre to really keep these guys in a sufficient group, because they are one of those absolutely stunning shoaling minnow species. Personally, I think they're a bit of a hidden gem in the aquarium trade. They are just absolutely iridescent. The males get these gorgeous blues and pinks through their bodies. The females slightly duller, but again, equally as beautiful in their own right, with these almost iridescent bronzish bodies coming through. It's so easy to see why people fall in love with rainbow shiners. If you're going to keep them, think about trying to create a sort of stream biotope, something with a lot of flow through it, lots of rounded, smooth stones. If you do want to have some planting in there, think about species that can take a little bit cooler kind of temperatures, because these guys are river species. They go down to about 18 degrees. Think about things like Java fern, Anubias, Thalassonaria. You're going to have a really good time if you keep these guys in a goby tank, or things like hill stream loach, anything that needs a good amount of flow. These guys can be kept with really, really well. Additionally, other kind of minnows, fathead minnows, white cloud mountain minnows, zebra danios, anything that needs that little bit extra bit of flow, you can really set up a special looking aquarium for something that is just so underrated in the aquarium trade. I think that obviously you need a bit more space to keep a species like this, but if you were wondering what you should keep in a temperate tank in particular, and you had that larger amount of space, keeping a rainbow shiner set up is just going to be absolutely ideal. And then if you want something to pair in there, some hill stream loach, I don't think you can go wrong. Now to a couple of species that I wanted to highlight this week in Asia. We have these absolutely stunning female Betta splendids in. Not only this week did we get in a couple of platinum white male Bettas, which are so popular. We know that people really adore the pure white bodies on half moon Bettas. We got in a restock of these stunning koi Plakat females. Now, I think that female fighters have gotten so good in terms of their colorations in the past few years in particular, they can rival their male counterparts in terms of beauty. And because they're not weighed down with that huge tail, they are that little bit more active, and they are typically a little bit less aggressive than their male counterparts in community aquariums. So you can keep them in a more peaceful community setup with things like Galaxy Rasbora, Harlequin Rasbora, and you're not gonna have nearly as many issues as you might have with male fighting fish. If you want to keep females, you can keep them individually on their own in a 20+ litre tank. But the reason why people want to keep female fighters in particular is to keep a better sorority. Now, if you are going to do that, think about keeping them in groups of 5+, ideally more, to diffuse that aggression in at least a 60 litre aquarium. Now, if you are going to do that, make sure you have lots of planting in there. Think about where they're from in the wild. Slow moving, densely vegetated areas in Southeast Asia, where they can break up those sightlines where they're not going to be super aggressive to each other. Because although female Bettas are less aggressive than their male counterparts and they can be kept together, they can still spar off and fight and show that aggression that they are known for. So to mitigate that, make sure you have a decent number of them so that that aggression is diffused out between the group, and you have enough plant to diffuse those sightlines so they're not constantly flaring up at each other, stressing each other out, and making just the whole situation not ideal. So if you do want to go into Betta sororities, make sure you're looking at 60+ liters. Ideally, a 100 liter would do really well for a Betta sorority, and you're just gonna get on fine. In terms of tank mates, you could look at getting something that is in the tank with them at the moment. These stunning Galaxy Rasbora, native to Burma, super easy to keep when you have the right setup and a mature tank. Make sure, again, as I mentioned last week, you have lots of vegetation for them to hide in and graze on. These guys love biofilm, so make sure that they have lots of bogwood with plants growing on it. And you need a mature tank that's been properly cycled with enough life inside of it to make sure that you get the absolute best out of them. And as you can see in the tank behind us, we've really not had any issues with the bettas picking on the galaxies. Obviously, you can keep male bettas with Galaxy Rasbora, but I do think there is something quite special about having that huge pop of color from the loads of female bettas in that tank with just those gorgeous iridescent galaxy bodies. It's just something that I wanted to point out, where I have talked about keeping Betta sororities in the past, and I didn't really touch upon what you can keep with a Betta sorority. And it's just an idea that I thought was worth highlighting, and definitely something that I know a lot of people who come into our store will be interested in. Now, moving into Australia, for the first time in ages, I'm able to say we got new Australia stock in, and these guys are the Red Sepik Rainbowfish. Now, as I've talked about in previous weeks, we have been looking at getting larger species in, and Red Sepik Rainbows definitely fall into this category. And as you can tell, I'm kind of excited that we have them in. Red Sepiks are obviously native to the Sepik River Basin in Papua New Guinea, and they are a larger rainbow species. These guys are definitely in their juvenile stage, and that's saying something considering they are already about 6-7 centimeters long. These guys can get up to 15 centimeters, usually between 10 and 12 for a mature adult, and they are just stunning when they are older. I was super excited when Dad told me we were getting these guys in stock. They are just one of those absolutely stunning rainbow fish species. Now, to keep them, obviously, as a large species, you need a minimum of about 200 liters to keep them effectively. And you want to be keeping them in groups of about 8 or 10. Now, when keeping these guys, you want to think about creating a large open aquascape. Lots of background planting with things surrounding the outer skirting of the aquarium, but leaving lots of open swimming space. These guys are active swimmers, constantly showing off to each other. And although when they're younger, as you can see, they have this like silvery, almost olivey coloration to them, which I think is quite interesting. You can see they have this red tint to the tail. And as they get older, they go pure, bright, fiery red. And that is why they are known as one of the most colorful species you can keep in freshwater aquariums. Now, they're not that hard to keep. They can be kept in pHs from around 7.5 up to 8.5, and they're realistically going to go well in any kind of semi-aggressive community tanks. Think about keeping them with large species, things like Congo Tetras, maybe some larger Corydorus, L-cats, other rainbows, things like Bosmanis are going to go absolutely perfectly with these guys. If I was going to be setting up an aquarium for them, I would be thinking about that. I've been thinking about that Aquael Ultrascape non-stop since we got it in. I want it so desperately. But if I was going to keep these guys in there, I would literally keep the hardscape as it is. Think about planting it up with loads of Alcinaria, Java Fern, Anubias, moss, maybe some dwarf Sagittaria along the base, and just have it open top with strong lighting over them, just to show off those beautiful reds that you're gonna get. They are just, I can't explain it, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, because I hope we sell them before then, because I think people do know what Red Sepiks are. I hope that you guys get to see how stunning these guys get when they are bigger. I was just so excited when I knew we were getting them in. They are one of those rainbow species that are just breathtaking when you see them when they're older. Super easy to keep, hardy as hell. As long as you have a big enough aquarium, you feed them with good omnivorous pellets, things like the Tetra Pro color, anything like Prima is going to be ideal for these guys. Things that have red coloration boosting effects is going to be great for them. You can mix in some mysis shrimp, some bloodworm, anything that's just going to fatten them up, make them mature that little bit quicker. And then you just end up with this absolutely startlingly red fish. Now, the first species that I want to highlight in Africa is our yellow labs. Now, although we haven't moved them over into this space yet, they are currently residing in our quarantine space. There is nothing wrong with them. They are just a little bit smaller than some of the other Malawi cichlids that we have in our Malawi display tank. So we just want to fatten them up a little bit more before they're ready to move on in. But the reason I wanted to highlight yellow labs in particular is because we've had lots of people asking about how they can get into keeping Malawi cichlids, and I didn't actually know all that much about Malawis before I started doing a bit of digging. Now, it turns out that yellow labs are the beginner's Malawi cichlid. They are the least aggressive Malawi that you're going to keep. Now, that's not saying much considering Malawis are just absolutely murderous. They are a very aggressive species, and when you keep tanks like this one, where you have lots of strikingly colored males, the aim of the game is diffused aggression, where you put in all males in more stocking than you would reasonably think would go into a 200 plus to 300 liter aquarium, and it stops the males from absolutely killing each other. They diffuse that aggression out. However, with yellow labs, if you want to keep a species-only tank, you can either go with all males and do the diffused aggression thing, where you just get really poppy, bright yellow colors. You put 5 males into something like a 200 liter or more, and you just have these beautiful colors coming through like you would in a typical Malawi display tank. However, if you want to breed Lake Malawi cichlids, which you absolutely can do, you want to think about keeping males to females in a 1:4 ratio. So 1 male to about 4 females, just so that they don't absolutely muller the females while trying to breed with them. Females are mouth layers, so if you see a female with a bulged mouth, she's definitely carrying eggs, and they are just the typical Lake Malawi that you're going to see. Those beautiful poppy yellow colors. It's just something that is so interesting. Something that I wasn't aware of with keeping most Malawis until one of my friends, Ray, pointed it out to me ages ago at this point, was that they are a pretty much purely herbivorous species. So make sure that you're giving them a Malawi specific pellet, which is lots of vegetables in a mix, to avoid Malawi bloat, and you should get on absolutely fine. I will do a full setup video at some point once we expand our rooms out on how to keep Malawis. But if you're aquascaping, think about just lots of rocks and hiding spaces. These guys will absolutely destroy plants. If you do want to give it a go, try with things like Anubias, Java Fern, really securely attached to rock. But aside from that, Lake Malawis are just a completely different side of the trade. So interesting, and you can see why people are so tempted to keep them. Now, for our final highlight in Africa, we have these absolutely stunning blue-eyed Congo Tetra. Now, from the Congo River, as is indicated by their name, I think these guys are absolutely beautiful. They're these stunning golden bodies with these amazing blue eyes. Now, when you're thinking about keeping these guys, they're almost complete opposite in requirements to your Lake Malawis. If you're going to be keeping them, think about at least 150 liter. These guys can get 6 to 8 centimeters long, and they are a true shoaling species. I absolutely adore heavily planted areas in pretty much Blackwater aquaria. So think about lots of things like cryptocorin, bulkwood, leaf litter. That's going to give that beautiful tea-stained water. And I was talking to a couple of guys in the shop earlier saying how much I love these guys. Just think about a beautifully planted Blackwater setup, and you just see these stunning blue eyes, pointing out at you. I don't think it can get much better than that. I would absolutely adore to keep these guys alongside maybe something like Congo Tetras, even something like an angelfish at some point if I had a big enough aquarium for them. But they are just an absolute gem. That little bit rarer. You don't see blue-eyed Congos all that often, and I just can't take my eyes off them. I think they are absolutely stunning. I love that we have rarer species like this in, and I really hope in the next year or so, as we expand out, we build more fish rooms, we're going to be able to keep display tanks. And honestly, I think a display tank of African tetra is definitely on the cards. I don't think you can beat something that is just as spectacular as these guys. And that is all from us here for highlights this week at Pond Life Aquatics. We will be getting in another fish order this week, hopefully, but if not, I have a few videos in the works for you guys. I'm currently doing a dirted aquarium series where I'm going to be showing the development of a dirted aquarium over the course of, let's say the series is going to be about a year, where I do one video per month, show you the development of it, and show you the beautiful little shrimp that I'm hopefully going to be breeding inside of it. So do keep an eye out for that. I'm also going to be doing a 3-part series over the next few weeks, talking to you guys about giving aquariums for gifts over the holiday season. And if you're not interested in giving gifts, there will still be some tips and tricks on how to keep your aquariums in the best possible way littered throughout those videos. So do keep an eye out for that. The announcements for Practical Fish Keeping Readers Polls will be out in next month's issues, so fingers crossed for that. But for now, that is all from me here at Pond Life Aquatics, and I hope you'll join me again next time for this Pond Life.